Next on Currents News, the Pope takes new action to protect minors. We'll have all the details on what the Holy Father is doing. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio will be here to talk about mobilizing the Brooklyn Diocese in support of the unborn. He's pledging support for the international 40 Days for Life campaign. The battle is still raging over the Mueller Report. It's President Trump versus congressional Democrats.
One Queens Catholic school taking their arts and music program to a whole other level. I'm Emily Drooby, and that story is ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Pope Francis issued sweeping new law this morning to protect minors and tackle sexual abuse. The Holy Father's actions are intended to be a model for the Catholic Church worldwide. Melissa Butts is at the Vatican with the latest.
After the February summit on sexual abuse, Pope Francis is taking action by creating new laws within the Vatican City state, punishing anyone who does not immediately report crimes of sexual abuse. For the first time, Vatican law enforces not reporting alleged sexual crimes, with fines up to 5,000 euros and jail time of up to 6 months. The only exception to this is if it was heard in confession under the sacramental seal. The Vatican's new 3-text legislation applies only to the Vatican City state and its youth seminary, but stands as an example for bishops worldwide on how to implement rules to protect minors and vulnerable persons from sexual abuse.
It's a matter of changing the attitude, and this is much more difficult than changing a law and thinking that it's the solution. It's necessary to have an invested and proactive will to put the spirit of the law into practice.
The first text is the new law. It legally equates minors with vulnerable adults, providing the first ever Vatican-defined definition for vulnerable person. The new laws also update the statute of limitations on abuse in the Vatican from 4 to 20 years after the minor turns 18. The second text lists 12 brief articles with guidelines for training Vatican employees about abuse risks and prevention methods. It encourages all victims to freely speak out by creating a service offering medical and psychological help to those abused. The third text contains pastoral guidelines for the vicariate or the Vatican Diocese. Adults must be visible to others if with a minor. Additionally, to contact a minor by telephone or on social media, adults must obtain parents' and guardians' written consent. The new norms are not canonical, rather civil and pastoral for the Vatican. It states priests are assumed innocent until proven guilty, and a person found guilty of abuse will lose his or her Vatican job. With these new laws, Pope Francis is setting an example as a model for the global church. The new laws will go into effect on June 1st, while the guidelines are immediately put into effect under a 3-year trial period. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you in New York, Liz.
Thank you, Melissa. The Vatican's top abuse prosecutor, Archbishop Charles Scicluna, is crediting the church in the United States and elsewhere with creating best practices that are the foundation of the Pope's new law.
This actually follows best practice in countries like the United States. I think it is a good day for the Vatican because it's actually doing what the Holy See has asked other people to do.
The Archbishop also saying one of the things he found very impressive in the Pope's rules is the emphasis on the rights of survivors and the duty of authorities to inform them of their rights. Claire Jean-Gravé, Crux's faith and culture correspondent, has been on top of this story all day. She joins us now from Turin, Italy. Claire, thank you so much for being with us. We just heard from Archbishop Scicluna that the Pope's actions follow the, quoting here, best practices in countries such as the U.S. How so?
Well, finally, the Vatican is catching up with what it has asked bishops' conferences all around the world to do, which is come up with guidelines to tackle sex abuse, which it wasn't really doing in-house. And obviously, that means going to look at what other dioceses were doing, and the United States definitely is at the forefront of that, mostly at the zero tolerance policy. I mean, one strike and you're out. Pope Francis has made it mandatory within Vatican City and among the Roman Curia to report cases of abuse, and it's something that the the United Nations has advocated for and reprimanded the Vatican for not doing. And it has also been a question of problematics with Italy, because of course they're neighboring countries, and very often not having that kind of regulation created some very difficult situations for the Vatican.
Claire, as you've pointed out in your article, there are several innovations to these new rules. What are the most striking?
Well, several of them. First of all, I mean, obviously, mandatory reporting of cases of abuse, even if you have something that is just vaguely around the realm of where you think that a vulnerable person is in danger, I think that is a big step for Vatican City, keeping in mind that this is the first of its kind. Also, I mean, the statute of limitations, which according to the old laws in the Vatican was only limited to 4 years, has now been extended to 20 years, giving greater breadth for victims who want to come forward after 18 years of age to come and speak to the Vatican about their problems. Also, creating places where victims can speak and be heard. These are all great developments that show a big step forward in case of Pope Francis' handling of sexual abuse in-house.
Claire, those are major changes indeed. And remember, after the Pope Summit on the protection of minors, he faced criticism, including in the media. Do you think these actions, the ones outlined in these documents, will quiet those critics?
I think that's a yes and no answer. I mean, there are different fields of criticism that are coming towards the Vatican. For some people who want to see victims have a greater voice, for some who want to see zero tolerance also for bishops, we're talking for the large part not so much about clerics. I mean, still, some believe that clerics who are found guilty of sexual abuse should be sent to civil authorities and not be, regulated under canon law. So it depends where the criticism is coming from. Everyone, I think, will agree that this is a great step forward.
An important point we need to make: the Vatican saying these new guidelines should be models for the global church. But why not just do that directly? Create these guidelines for the church worldwide.
It's difficult for, you said it, global church. It's difficult for the global church to apply one set of regulations throughout the world. But this will offer a template for those countries that are still trying to step up their game and understand what it means to provide best practices for the protection of vulnerable adults. Let's not forget that this document also gives a very widespread kind of spanning definition of what vulnerable adults are. It encompasses a huge amount of people, from seminarians to disabled, from minors to women, or people who are limited in their freedom. It's difficult to apply this in the very diverse realms where the Catholic Church is present.
Claire, very quickly, how will these guidelines be implemented by bishops at a local level?
Well, I guess we will have to see, but let's not forget that this motu proprio is the first step in a three-pronged approach that was promised to us after the February Summit of Bishops, where sexual abuse was definitely a big topic. And after that, we are expected to have local guidelines, not just for bishops, but also for dioceses, to start applying the best kind of protection for vulnerable adults and minors.
Claire, a lot of great information there and great perspective. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us.
Thank you.
The church in Australia is vowing to protect the seal of confession despite a new law on child abuse that starts Monday. Anything a penitent tells the priest in the confessional must remain secret. The new law requires mandatory reporting of allegations of child abuse. Archbishop Christopher Prowse said priests will not breach the seal, but will encourage the person to report to civil authorities. In a few hours, the Pope will leave Rome for Morocco on a jam-packed 2-day visit. The Holy Father is saying that he's going as a pilgrim of peace and fraternity.
Come cristiani e musulmani crediamo in Dio, creatore, misericordioso, che ha creato gli uomini e li ha posti nel mondo perché vivano da fratelli, rispettando sé nelle diversità e aiutandosi nelle necessità.
Francis is hoping the journey will be an opportunity for bridge building between Muslims and Christians. Pope Francis will be in Morocco Saturday and Sunday. You can stay up to date on the trip all weekend at the tablet and Nuestra Voz. Go to thetablet.org and nuestra-voz.org, and we'll have a full wrap-up on Monday's Currents News. Turning to other top news, a battle is still raging between President Trump and congressional Democrats over the Mueller report. The rhetoric is sharp and a new deadline has been set. Karen Kaifa has the latest.
How are we doing on the southern border?
President Trump turning his attention to immigration, tweeting a threat to close the U.S. border with Mexico next week, and putting health care front and center.
Obamacare is a disaster. Right now it's losing in court.
But at a rally in Michigan Thursday night, Trump showed the Russia probe isn't far from his mind.
This was nothing more than a sinister effort to undermine our historic election victory and to sabotage the will of the American people.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi also eager to turn her caucus to issues that boosted Democrats to a House majority in the 2018 midterms, especially with the Trump administration's recent moves to strike down Obamacare. But the party also feels they have a constitutional obligation to keep pressing for Mueller's full report and the evidence to draw their own conclusions about certain events during the 2016 campaign, even if Attorney General Bill Barr says Mueller found no criminal conspiracy.
We're obviously willing to concede today that it wasn't a criminal conspiracy, but remember that none of these activities were appropriate.
Barr on Friday said the DOJ will have the Mueller report ready to release by mid-April, if not sooner, in a letter to Judiciary Committee chairs. Barr also offered to testify after the report is released, suggesting May 1st for the Senate committee, May 2nd for the House. In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
The Supreme Court has stopped the execution of a Texas inmate because of religious concerns. Patrick Murphy wanted a Buddhist spiritual advisor to accompany him to the death chamber, but the state refused. Last night, the court said Texas could not execute Murphy unless the advisor was present. Last month, the court ruled against a Muslim inmate in Alabama, saying his request for an imam came too late. Georgia lawmakers gave final support this afternoon to an abortion ban that's known as the Heartbeat Bill. The measure outlaws almost all abortions in the state. It bans ending an unborn child's life once a heartbeat is detected. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has said he would sign the bill into law. The ACLU intends to mount a court challenge against that legislation. A bill to legalize physician-assisted suicide in Maryland failed in a dramatic deadlock. The state Senate vote on the legislation ended in a tie on Wednesday. Senator O.B. Peterson refused to cast the deciding ballot. He said he made the decision not to vote after talking with constituents and members of his church. The controversial decision to eliminate federal money for the Special Olympics is being reversed by President Trump. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos testified yesterday that the program's budget was being reduced to zero. Trump says they will get that funding.
The Special Olympics will be funded. I just told my people I want to fund the Special Olympics. I've been to the Special Olympics. I think it's incredible, and I just authorized a funding.
The Special Olympics released a statement Thursday thanking the president. There's a lot more news headed your way. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio will be here in moments to talk about how the diocese is mobilizing in support of the unborn. Millions took to the streets in a March for Life. The video from Argentina has just emerged. And a high note about Catholic education. A Queens Catholic Academy is getting a big boost for its music program. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. New York's extreme abortion law is sparking big backlash against its provisions, including ending a child's life even up to the moment of birth. Bishop DiMarzio is mobilizing the Brooklyn Diocese to protect the lives of the unborn. He's with Ed Wilkinson to talk about what's being done. Hi, Ed.
Thank you, Liz. And today we're going to talk to the bishop about a program that he has singled out for use here in the diocese during Lent. Bishop, good to see you. This year you recommended this program called 40 Days for Life, and you urged parishes and individuals to take part in it. Why did you single this particular program out?
Well, this year, again, in New York State especially, we had a kind of a radical bill that has expanded abortion possibilities for people. And I thought we had to do something to highlight it for people. We're asking, what can we do? Well, there is the prayer and there is the action that comes after it. That is very clear in this program, 40 Days for Life. It's actually a national program which parishes can adapt fully or partially. It is a program of praying for the end of abortion or the curtailment of it, but also a program where we help those agencies that are trying to help people avoid abortions to participate with them, sometimes individuals, participate them in raising funds so that they can offer to women that are in difficult circumstances alternatives. There is a website, our own website on the diocese, where they can go on, and there's a variety of activities.
What do you think is going on with our politicians? Because here in New York State, there was recently a survey that said 75% of the people in New York State really don't buy into this late-term abortion, and yet it passes.
Well, I don't know what the politicians are thinking. I think our people are not telling them. They've got to, and I put that in too, before this even happens. Say, contact your legislators, tell them you're against it. And one of the good things we have here in New York State is there is an advocacy network set up by the Bishops' Conference where you can just go online and they send the email for you to the right person. Our legislators have to hear from the voters. That's what counts. Their own constituents make a difference. So we do have to become politically active to make a difference.
Yeah, a lot of, some people might be watching the show and they might be homebound. Is this a program that they can participate in also?
Certainly the 40 Days for Life, prayer is, anybody can pray in any place. So that's certainly one area that can be available to everyone.
Yeah, and we have this group in the diocese called Helpers of God's Precious Infants that's been going on for about 25 years or so, and they just having a apostolate of prayer in front of abortion clinics. You've been with them many times.
Yes.
What is that experience like for you, Bishop?
Well, again, it's kind of eye-opening to see on early Saturday morning, first we have Mass, and then we go to there's always an abortion clinic near some church. I mean, we just walk a few blocks. And it's praying the rosary on the way. We do all 15, 20 decades of the rosary. It just takes time. But it's just a vigil. And there are people then who can be closer to the doors, giving information out, giving pamphlets saying, think about this twice, we can help you if you have a financial problem or what is the issue. So you try to divert people, but it isn't a forced thing, it is not harassment, it's just offering information to people. And we're seeing, 30, 40, 50, or sometimes 100 people praying, makes people stop and think, what am I doing? What's the reason?
In some states, not New York, but in some states there are bills like that say that if a child survives an abortion, that the doctor has to do something to help that person.
Right.
Is that at least a step in the right direction?
Well, of course it is. Anything, there was an article in the paper the other day, this woman who survived a saline abortion, today is an adult and anti-abortion advocate, obviously, and she was saved and then adopted. So again, children are wanted today, and if someone feels they cannot raise a child, they should be generous enough to give the life of that child to someone else to raise.
Okay, Bishop, thank you so much. Liz, prayer as an antidote to abortion, it's some good advice. Back to you.
Very good advice. Thank you so much, Ed, and thank you, Bishop DiMarzio, for that insight. The bishop just mentioned the Brooklyn Diocese website in support of 40 Days for Life. Online, there are many resource materials to help Catholics participate in that campaign. Go to dioceseofbrooklyn.org and click on the Marriage and Family tab. Another action in support of the sanctity of life takes place tomorrow at Presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in Jamaica, Queens. A pro-life mass and witness will be celebrated beginning at 7 a.m. Nearly 2 million people marched in the Pope's native land of Argentina in pro-life demonstrations. Video of last Saturday's rallies have just emerged. The marches took place in more than 200 locations. Buenos Aires drew the largest crowd and is seen here. More than 300,000 people marching across that capital. The demonstrations defended the life of the unborn and offered solutions to mothers in crisis pregnancies. Archbishop Wilton Gregory is expected to be appointed by Pope Francis as the next Archbishop of Washington, D.C. The Catholic News Agency is quoting multiple sources saying Wilton, who's currently Archbishop of Atlanta, would succeed Cardinal Donald Wuerl. He asked the Holy Father to accept his resignation last October. According to Catholic News Agency, the formal announcement about Archbishop Gregory could come next week. Still to come on Currents News. The talented children at a Queens Catholic Academy are getting a big boost to a pair of highly successful programs. And the joy of new life is the talk of hospitals where the maternity unit is about to get very busy. We'll be right back. The hallmark of a great education is developing well-rounded students, and that's what the Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens accomplish every single day. Currents News' Emily Drooby reports on a big boost coming to the arts and music programs at St. Andrew Avellino Catholic Academy.
Emmy Lou Wang plays the cello, the piano, and she sings. The 12-year-old is musically gifted, and her talent has grown while attending St. Andrew Avellino Catholic Academy in Flushing, Queens.
It's just what I love to do, and I'm just so happy I get to do it in school here.
The Catholic school has a strong music program. Emmy's mom, Claire, who's a cellist, is one of the school's music teachers. Mom and Emmy feel the 12-year-old's musical and performing talents have grown since transferring to the Catholic school. Her faith has also grown, the school inspiring Emmy to become Catholic.
My second grade teacher, Miss Gilbert, she taught me all about it, and I completely fell in love, and I wanted to get baptized in third grade.
She begged me. She said, "Mommy, I want to be baptized." I said, "Okay, of course, I 100% support you."
While in school at St. Andrew Avellino, Emmy learns about her religion and the instruments she loves, something she couldn't do at her public school.
I mean, I liked my old school, but it didn't really have too much of an opportunity for me to perform and do all the stuff I love to do. This school, I feel like almost like I'm performing every day. It's amazing.
This school offers all types of programs from chorus to band to percussion to string and even piano. Teaching kids of all ages to love music. Now the school will be able to inspire and teach even more students. A $100,000 grant from the Diocese of Brooklyn will be going directly into the arts and music programs at the school. Kimberly Larkin, who started the music programs 20 years ago, says this grant will put instruments in the hands of more students, which has always been her ultimate goal. The school has already received half of the funding and is making immediate improvements. In Flushing, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
A maternity unit at a hospital in Maine is about to be very busy with newborns. 9 nurses from the labor and delivery unit at Maine Medical Center are expecting. A photo of the moms-to-be has gone viral all over social media, and this week they officially became known as the 9.
I have a friend in Australia who reached out to me and was like, "You're famous." But our manager said that she knows of someone in Poland that's seen it. I've heard it's on an Italian podcast. It's just wild.
Our manager and our scheduler have been amazing with just planning all of the leaves.
The 9 make up 10% of the labor and delivery nurses at the hospital. Their due dates range from April to July, and at least they will all be able to support each other. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.